So just a quick recap for you. In D&D Rule Solution, what we do is we go through the uncleared corners of the Player's Handbook and kind of pull out some of the information that is often or otherwise overlooked or missed. Teague Ranger, thank you very much for the follower on the Mixer crew. Thanks. Welcome to the Checkmates. You're part of an amazing community of tabletop role-playing game aficionado gurus and enthusiasts, as well as game players, lovers of all things gaming and nerd culture. So thank you for joining us on the show today. Thank you for the follow. Really appreciate your support and for giving me your time this fine Saturday morning. Continuing with D&D Rule Solution, we always do a who's who of Dungeons & Dragons, and today we're talking about none other than Chris Perkins himself. Of course, Chris Perkins was born in Canada. As a Canadian, I have to mention that. We love to, herald that. We love to beat that drum. But the reality is, he moved to the U.S. as a young individual and is very much an American citizen. So Canadians, I know we like to try to put our stamp on everything we can if they ever were born in or walked through Canada. But while Chris Perkins is a native of Canada, he's a U.S. citizen, has been living there for a very long time. He is a senior producer now for Dungeons & Dragons, and he leads the design, development, and editing for all D&D products. He began actually as an editor for Dungeon Magazine, which was the previous iteration way back in 1997. That's a reality check for me too. It was way back. And of course, you will know him now as not only the dungeon master for the live streams, but his name is now pretty much on anything that goes into print or digital format that bears the D&D logo. And that is Chris Perkins. Dungeons & Dragons is about imagination and storytelling. And this comes directly from the Player's Handbook as a quote. It shares elements with childhood games of make-believe. Like those games, D&D is driven by imagination. It's about the towering castle beneath a stormy night sky, imagining how a fantasy adventurer might react to the challenges and scenes that are presented therein. So effectively, that really boils down to the actions, reactions, and of course the consequences that come with it. D&D simply gives structure to those stories. So it's a set of rules that are structurally based that just act as a framework for us to overlay the actions, reactions, and of course the consequences that come in through gameplay. So the dice then, of course, determines the outcomes as we interact with those actions and consequences. And realistically, anything is possible. What I always say to my players is that it's not about asking what you can do. It's about describing anything you want to try. You can try anything you want. So get out of the mindset of asking what you can do and the stress that comes with learning a game. Just focus about being in that element and contributing to those stories and engagements. Continuing with D&D Rule Solution today, the Player's Handbook describes a simple interaction, actually, that outlines this style of gameplay and forms the basis of how the Dungeon Master and the players interact to create that collaborative story. So it goes like this, verbatim. The Dungeon Master. After passing through the craggy peaks, the road takes a sudden turn to the east, and Castle Ravenloft towers before you. Crumbling towers of stone keep a silent watch over the approach. They look like abandoned guardhouses. Beyond these, a wide chasm gapes, disappearing into the deep fog below. A lower drawbridge spans the chasm, leading to an arched entrance to the castle courtyard. The chains of the drawbridge creak in the wind, their rust-eaten iron straining with the weight. From atop the high, strong walls, stone gargoyles stare at you from hollow sockets and grin hideously. A rotting wooden portcullis, green with growth, hangs in the entry tunnel. Beyond this, the main doors of Castle Ravenloft stand open, a rich, warm light spilling into the courtyard. Player 1. I want to look at the gargoyles. I have a feeling they're not just statues. Player 2. The drawbridge looks precarious. I want to see how sturdy it is. Do I think we can cross it, or is it going to collapse under our weight? Dungeon Master. Okay, one at a time. Player 1. You're looking at the gargoyles? Yeah, is there any hint that might be creatures and not decorations? DM. Make an intelligence check. Player 1. Does my investigation skill apply? DM. Sure. Player 1 rolls a d20. 7. DM. They look like they look like decorations to you. And player 2, checking out the drawbridge, and it continues on through there. So this really articulates a simple interaction that happens between DMs and players. You describe a situation, a scenario. Players interact. They say how they're interacting, not ask if or for what they can do. And then the DM helps mitigate the outcomes or the consequences based on those reactions and decisions. Continuing with D&D Rules Solution this week, there are 3 main pillars of Dungeons & Dragons. So what are they? Well, D&D presents an adventure where characters team up with other adventurers to work together to challenge fictional settings, including dungeons, castles, mythical environments, intrigue, and roleplay. And in there are 3 main pillars that the game is built on. Those are roleplay, combat, and exploration. So all these 3 pillars work together to create engagement and interaction, exciting conflict in those games, and the resolution of those conflicts, and the imagineering of fantastic worlds and environments, settings that are bound only by your creativity. Really, the only limitation when you're playing to these 3 pillars is how far you're willing to go in your own imagination and what you can create in the moment. And that, for this week, are 5 great points in the D&D Rule Solution segment here on Speaking Common with Shambazzle Games. We do that every week. We slowly go through the Players Handbook, and we really lift out those little nuggets that a lot of people don't go through when they're just kind of glossing through the rules and learning to play the game. So hope you enjoy it. We'll continue to do that every week, and I'll see you back at the bar.